good looking thing. With my fingers. I just had a few minutes and thought I'd sit down and open the room up for a few minutes. How you doing? Well, it turned out pretty. It's up in the 50s, high 50s this afternoon. It was cold this morning. We got some colder weather coming in, though. Let me look and see what we got going here. Well, they don't want to let me look. Yeah, I'm tired of winter too. Hmm. Yeah, they must be restocking the page. Let me do it a different way. I'm curious. Hmm. Hey, Steve, how you doing, man? Ooh, Lord. Has anybody heard anything from Ken? I know he come on there last night and said they lost everything. I just took a notion to do a pop up, Steve. How you gonna organize a small meetup, Steve, You're famous. Yeah, I'm trying to get over this crap. I guess I'm doing a little bit better. I'm just wore out. Apparently, everybody I know, it takes a while to get over this mess. I'm glad I didn't try to make it in Ironwood. I think I would have been miserable. I sure did want to go though. Hey, Daniel. Yeah. If you can keep 5,000 people from following you, yeah, I've got a low tolerance for real loud music. Steve, you want to come up for a little bit? You ain't been up here on screen with me in a long time. Okay. Just tell me when you get ready. Daniel, how you doing tonight? Day. Still daylight out there, just barely. What are you doing, lady? You gonna grab at me again? Give me that fish eye look. Yeah, you giving me that fish eye look. See if I can still remember how to do this. Well, come on. Hmm. Well, it doesn't want to take it. Let's give it a couple minutes, Steve, and then I'll try it again. I don't know what's going on. I tried to get a Weather Channel. They said I didn't have a connection. Try to get this, and they said having trouble connecting. I really enjoyed your live today, Steve. Had a lot of information going on it. Yeah, you really did have. I really enjoyed that more than normal. Sound like you got some information on camping in some of the BLMs. Yeah, I did. I was surprised to see Janice in there. She's not this time of day. She's not normally running around. Ah, man, girl, I appreciate it. You just pop in anytime you see us here. You ain't no telling when we'll be online. You still enjoying your deal up there in Alaska? Yeah, maybe this thing has worked now. There you go. Well, I got it hooked back up where it's supposed to be. There you go, Steve. We haven't got any real heavy rain here, but it's just been wet. I guess we've been lucky. Here, right here where I live, it hadn't been too bad. Hey,
Hey,
Steve.
how's it going?
Oh, that's going good. I, no, that was a good live you had this morning. I really enjoyed that.
That's good. That's good. I still got my live T-shirt on,
Yeah, there you go.
and there's Lucas. He knows I'm on the computer, so he's got to come in and say hello.
Oh yeah, they got to get in on it.
Yeah, you're a good boy. He's a good boy.
Hey, Ringo and Zara. They, you were talking about your the fees that they were talking about charging. Did you get what is the deal on that? I just caught the tail end of that.
Well, they're proposing. Hey, Kyle. They're proposing a $15 camping fee for anybody camping overnight inside the monument, and that was kind of evolving under the previous administration, so I don't know what'll happen. But there's enough state land around here that you can get around it. State land in Arizona, you can buy a permit, a yearly permit for like $22 and camp, in any state land. And there's state land all over inside and outside the monument here. So there's a way to get around it if we want to.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't know if they'd ever jail what they were going to do with the long term deal, or is all that still up in the air? Or,
That's up in the air too. I think the current administration has frozen everything until they can take a look at it. Who knows what will happen? But they're supposed to. BLM was supposed to post a notice, inside the monument, and I found one post down around the corner from where we live, not in the camping areas, but down around the corner next to an old small little pit over there. I saw one post over there where you could scan it with your phone and then log in and make comments. So who knows what's going to happen?
yeah, everything's still up in the air then.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you got to give the new administration a little pat on the back. They got some people scrambling on this money business. It, I got to thinking the other day they were talking about finding uh, $2 trillion that will come up where it wasn't supposed to be. You divide that out by 315 million people in the United States. I can't even divide that high.
Hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. They're doing something that really needs to be done, and it appears to me that they jumped in so fast that they couldn't be obstructed because they got in there so fast. They went in with a wrecking ball before anybody really knew what was going on. And so now they're catching up. You know, the other side is catching up and going to court now, trying to, shut it all down. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for the next few months.
Yeah, yeah. But
Uh,
how does it affect the cost of eggs? I don't know. We'll see.
mm, but I got tickled at you talking there a while ago about no loud music. We're a little bit older. Loud, we're past the loud music
Yeah,
time in our.
yeah. I took my RV out there, and I knew there was going to be loud music. There always is, and it's okay for the folks that like it. But at 10, 11 o'clock at night when I'm trying to sleep, I don't care much for it. So I just live 4 miles down the road. So I just came home, slept at home, and then I used the RV for my afternoon naps and hanging out when I needed a break or whatever. So it worked
Well,
out fine.
I'm lucky. I can tone that out and go to sleep. It doesn't bother me. Now, if in my own house, if somebody take one step that don't belong here, I'm wide awake. But I guess I worked in that steel shop so many years and all the sledgehammers and machines running and stuff that I can just turn that off. So it doesn't really bother me, but that's not my deal.
Yeah, the one night I slept there, when was it? I forget which night it was, towards the end of the meetup. I stayed overnight because I needed to get a morning fire going first thing in the morning. I think it was the first morning I slept there. I got a morning fire going, and then that night before, I put on a YouTube channel that I watched, and it was a 2 hour interview. And I just laid the phone next to my pillow, turned it up, and I fell asleep and slept just fine. By the time that interview was over, the music was shut off, and it was fine, didn't bother me. So, you just adapt. You can't not let them have their fun.
I don't know.
So I've had a lot of people ask me, they would kind of prefer a more quiet get together too. So I might do something maybe the weekend prior or something, or the weekend after Ironwood, and just kind of sit around the campfire and take it easy.
Get to know folks that way.
You do, yeah, you really do.
And, well,
Not,
y'all,
not to take anything away from Ironwood 2025, we had a great time. It's
oh,
just, yeah, it's just, I'm pushing 70 years old next year, and I can't do that heavy work. Don't want to do it, and my body doesn't want to do it. It hurts for a long time afterwards. So I need to kick back a little bit and let the young folks take it where they want to take it.
yeah, well, I got 10 years on you. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. My mind is still there. My mind still wants to do it. And my mind pushes my body, and then the next day my body tells my mind, "What the hell were you thinking?"
I know that feeling exactly, my friend.
Uh-huh.
I really get aggravated at myself sometimes. I was always during my working years, I'd have a crew working, and when they played plumb out, I'd reach and get that other gear and tell them, "Come on, let's go. All I want you to do is just follow me." Well,
Yeah.
that gear ain't there anymore. I think I stripped it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I was the same way. I used to tell my guys, "Hey, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I won't do. Come on,
No.
let's go."
Well, it's hard to sit down and goof off when the boss is right there humping right in front of you.
That's
And
right.
I've had some good crews. The best crew I ever had, we were putting a building up, and we came to work on a Monday morning, and everybody was just in a goof off mood. I mean, they just one of them. I guess that had a rough weekend or whatever, and I never said a word. And we didn't get hardly anything done that morning. And we sat down and ate lunch on the job. And when we got through with lunch, I said, "All right, now we done played all morning. It's time to go to work." Well, they did 3 days worth of work that afternoon, but there's not many crews that'll do that. And that
Yeah.
particular crew, I got to let goof off, and they'd make it up, you know. So,
You
and
know,
that's
it's all about knowing your people, right?
yeah, yeah.
Give them their lead for a while and then rein them in and put them to work.
Well, I was don't look like it now, but I was like 19, 20 years old running a 20-man construction crew, and I always looked younger than I was. And the that usually caused some problems for about a day. And after a day, well, they found out just keeping up with me was all they wanted to worry about. They wasn't worried about the rest of it.
Yeah.
I used to have this routine we did a lot of going in on a construction project where they needed some help. We'd get them out of the hole and catch them up, you know. And I'd go in on one of those jobs, and like I say, looked like I was younger than I was. And but I'd been doing it for a long time too. I started working in my dad's shop when I was 12. Well, I'd go in there, and for about 3 days, I'd just keep my mouth shut and watch the welders work and watch the other guys work, and figure out who the top guy was, and I'd take and mess around. And about that fourth day, I'd come in there and just blow the doors off all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they'd forget how old you were. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't have to tell them.
Interesting, isn't it? When you jump into those situations where you're kind of the stranger and getting into that crew and then reading the folks, you find out who is the official boss and who is the unofficial boss. You know, who is really the leader in here. I always enjoyed those dynamics, you know, of learning crews and all the personalities and everything. And then when you're putting a crew together, it's really important to know the folks that you're giving responsibility to. So that is a very important skill to have as a boss, is knowing who's going to work together, who's going to butt heads, you know, who's going to be a good leader, and who's going to back them up, you know, who's going to back up the crew chief or whoever that is leading the crew. So I always enjoyed that part of the business.
The best hand I ever had worked for me for a long time, and he was plenty capable of doing anything that came up. And we had a set of cattle pens we were building, and we'd just built one set of them. And about 5 miles down the road, we had a duplicate set that we were building. It was for an electric company, and the land around their power plants, and they ran cattle on it. And anyway, I was busy. I had 2 or 3 big jobs running, and I told Ed, I said, "Ed, you got a pattern right down the road. You done helped me build one of these things. I'll pay you a $10,000 bonus if you'll take this thing and take this crew and go ahead and build these pens. You know, on top of your regular wages. Well, I'll give you that bonus." And he lasted 4 days.
Mm.
At the end of 4 days, he said, "I'll quit before I have to do this." Said, "I'm not going to argue with you guys," and that kind. And he was plenty capable. I mean, he was top notch, you know. And some people can't handle working other people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, some people that are good just working by themselves, and there are some people that want to attach themselves to someone who's going to lead the way. And there's all kinds of people. You just have to figure them out.
I was during my shop one day, we had a guy come in, had some aluminum work that needed to do sort of special. And I was talking to him, working on his job, and I had a couple crews running the shop, a couple different projects going. And I was talking to him and answering the phone in between time, and then hollering at the guys on them crews if it looked like they were fixing to do something they wasn't supposed to. He said, "Damn, I'd hate to work for you." I said, "Why?" I said, "I'm not hard to get along with." He said, "You bet you're sitting right here, you're answering the phone, you're talking to me, you're fixing a job, and you're watching two crews working, telling them what to do, and you're just as relaxed, taking it easy doing it." I said, "Well, ain't not anybody do it." He said, "No, anybody can't do it either." He said, "There's about 2% of the people that you can take and just hand something to them and walk off." And I didn't
Yeah.
believe it for a long time, but that's true.
Yeah, I believe so too. Yeah, and people working for you that know what kind of quality you expect. They know, okay, what would Ron do in this situation? How would he decide, what's right and wrong? And you want people like that working for you.
My dad was a top-notch welder. In fact, he was an experimental welder for Dow Chemical for about 10 years, where when he helped work out the process to weld magnesium, and uh, he was just a cracker jack. Well, after we got our shop going, and we hired a new guy, and he was top-notch welder. And we were putting a leading edge on a front-end loader bucket of one of the big earth movers. And you got to beat them bucket faces in. And I walked by this old boy, and he'd worked for me for about a week. And he took and said, "Come here, Ronnie." I walked over, and he said, he chipped a weld off, and he said, "There's your bead to shoot at. See if you can get where you can do that one of these days." Yeah, I'll have to try that one of these days. And I walked back to the front of the shop, reached over and got my hood and cleaned the lens on it. And my dad said, "What are you fixing to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to take care of something before it gets any further down the road." And he said, "Let them boys do that." I said, "No, I need to take care of this." I walked back down there, and I ran about 3 rods, I guess, and got that machine just exactly where I wanted it, and sit there and run a bead. And when I did, it was slick enough that the flux on it just curled up like a scorpion tail, like that. And I called, the old boy's name was Boyd. I called him over there, and I said, "Hey, Boyd, come here." And he walked up there, and I thumped that flux off that weld just with my fingertip. I said, "Now there's one for you to shoot at." It made him mad, but he never did pop off at me after that.
It's good. Yeah, men's world, right? There's always a competition, just like in women's world.
Yeah, and it was fun. And I
Oh yeah,
mean, it.
you know, good nature stuff.
Yeah, I think that's where I get my building from. I built stuff all my life, just and I miss that part of working, taking a project and going from ground zero to. That was one thing I was going to do with my dad, and we never did do it. But I worked within about 100-mile radius of where our shop was, and we were going to get in a pickup one day and take a camera and just go riding and taking pictures of barns and cattle pens and stuff we'd done at plants. And we never did do that. Because after I got about 19 or 20, my dad never saw the outside work I took care of all the outside stuff, and he'd get behind in the shop, and I'd go back in there and help him out, and then go back out. And we had a good deal going for a lot of years.
So it was welding and fabrication in the shop, and then construction outside the shop.
Yeah, we had
Oh,
portable rigs that run too. I I did a lot of high pressure pipe work, steam and water lines and air lines, and I would
You ever
reroute.
work on high pressure gas?
They put a gas line in here, but most of the time when they put a gas line in, they they've got traveling crews that put them things in.
Oh,
Just
okay.
and now I've done a lot of taps on the natural gas lines before they started going to plastic, and that was
There's like a 24-inch line, I think, maybe 48-inch, that belongs to El Paso Natural Gas that comes through this area. And one time they must have developed a leak because they had cut this pipe out, and I was driving by with my Jeep, kind of watching the work, progress. And they cut this chunk of pipe out and then welded a new pipe in. I guess it must have corroded enough to where it started leaking. And that's a big weld around that pipe.
oh yeah. We put some 72-inch 6-foot pipe in off a lake, water line off a new lake they built one time. That's the biggest pipe I ever worked. I tell you one that spooked me for a long time was you'd take a line they were using that they were running natural gas through, and you'd go in there and set up and weld a fitting on the side of it. And maybe they had a different plant coming in or something. You'd weld like a 4-inch fitting on the side of that pipe, and then they had a drill they could screw into that fitting you welded on there that had a brass bit, and they'd drill a hole in that pipe through the center of it, and then it had a valve on it. They cut it off and unscrew the drill and stuff, and that
Oh,
always
wow, that's interesting. I wondered how they did that.
yeah, it
Oh,
sort of
brass? I didn't know they made brass drill bits.
oh
Makes
yeah,
sense though, because you're not getting any spark out of brass, right?
that's right. Pretty cool, but it'd make you the wildest one I ever did on that is down on the Gulf Coast. They had these 1-million-gallon gasoline storage tanks at truck farms, where their big tanks are set up.
Yeah.
And 2 or 3 times a year, they'd call me and a couple of buddies of mine, and we'd go in there and they'd have new piping they were wanting to put in. And you'd sit there and weld a 6-inch coupling on the side of a tank that had 1 million gallons of gasoline in it. And that'd make you sort of hump up a little bit.
Yeah, I'll bet.
As long as you don't hit a thin spot, you're all right.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to do that on a tank one day, and when I rolled into the yard, they had a safety guy there. And he said, "Give me your cigarettes and cigarette lighter." I said, "What for?" He said, "You can't have them on the job." I said, "I'm thinking go light a damn fire. What the hell are you talking about?" I start welding it. A cigarette lighter ain't going to mount to nothing. He's a smart aleck. Well, we got over and got all set up and ready to go, and they cleared everybody out of there except me and that safety guy. The safety guy said, "All right, you can go to work." And he turned around and started walking off. So where do you think you're going? He said, "Well, you're fixing to start welding." I said, "Yeah, and you're the safety guy, and you cleared all this, and you're going to stand right here beside me while I weld this damn fitting on." And he had to do it. He couldn't get out of it. He never did give me a hard time anymore after that.
Yeah.
I've had an interesting life, Steve. I'm just
I have to. I have to. So, and it's a shame that our bodies are too old to do the stuff that we learn, huh? But you
man.
try to pass it on to someone else.
That's one thing that my whole family, uncles, my grandfather, and my great grandfather were all in the steel business. And so I came down with a lot of knowledge, sort of like an apprentice program.
Yeah.
and that really made a lot of difference. And that's something we don't. When I quit, well, my son didn't like it, and so there was 5 generations of knowledge that just went up the tube, and that's sort of sad.
It is, yeah. Yeah, the kids today are not interested in doing that heavy work.
Mm-mm. They won't do it on the computer, and
Yeah.
the ones that do want to get in there and be a plumber or a welder or something like that, they'll make more money than these college graduates will.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the skilled trades are in short supply for sure.
I was reading an article about Germany the other day, and they said after the war that we gave Germany $8 million a year to rebuild. And instead of rebuilding with that money, Germany took every kid that wanted to go to college, he had a free college education. It was paid for. Well, that all worked good for a few years, but then Germany got into a situation where a ditch digger made more money than a mechanical engineer did. And it took them a long time to get over that. And
Yeah.
it's a different world. I had one that happened to me yesterday that was sort of funny. I was real big into archery for a long time, and got up where I was playing with the big boys, pretty heavy. And I got up to what got it started. I got to watching one of the national final shoot offs yesterday, and I was within about 3 months of turning pro on the archery and going to do it full time. And that's when they had that accident and blew a thumb off. Well, I never could quite get everything back, but I've often wondered how much different would my life been if I'd went into being a professional archer compared to what I did. You sort of
Yeah.
wonder.
Yeah, I wonder about that too. I think that things happen for a reason, and sometimes you question why did that happen to me? But I like to think, especially if it worked out okay in the end, I like to think that that was destined to happen and it was destined to redirect you where you should be going. You know,
Mhm.
accidents happen, sure, but I think back at some of the directions that I took. How I got on at the electric co-op was, I was in a warehouse, running a warehouse as a supervisor, and I hired people from a temporary agency. One day, these ladies came walking through, and I said, "Hey, I'm kind of looking around to see what else is out there." And this one lady, Donna, knew me real well. She knew I was military retiree. She had my resume. She knew my background. And she called me 2 weeks later and she said, "Hey, Trico Electric is looking for a dispatcher." And she says, "I know you did similar work in the military. You want me to set you up an interview?" "Sure," I said. And meanwhile, I had to get online and find out who's Trico, where's Trico, what do they do, what's their history. So I started studying up on Trico Electric Cooperative. And turns out, they serve electricity out in the rural areas like where we live out here. Tucson Electric Power takes care of the city, in the Tucson area. Geez, I never knew any of that stuff. So I did some quick studying. She got me an interview. Here I am working in a dispatching linemen crews out for outages, keeping track of work orders, doing paperwork, running the radio kind of thing. And that's how I started my 20-year career at the electric co-op. And to think that if I hadn't have mentioned that to her, I'd be working in a warehouse for the rest of my life, which was fine. I made decent money, but I made a hell of a lot more money at the electric co-op over a 20-year career. So I think of that all the time. If something just hit me, ask her this question when she walks through, just at the spur of the moment. And I think I was kind of directed that way because it wasn't something I thought about ahead of time. It was just popped up and off I went. So I got the interview. They said, okay, we'll hire you. You work for the temporary agency for 30 days. We'll try you out. If we like you and you like the co op, then we'll bring you on as a permanent employee. That's how it worked out.
How?
Really happy about that.
Where are you from, Steve?
Tucson originally.
What I mean, originally, weren't you up north or something?
No, I was all over in the military, but
Oh, okay.
I was born and raised in Tucson.
All right. So the desert was in your blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, I had it that you were from Maine or Wisconsin or something when you were young.
No, grew up in Tucson and went into the military for 21 years, 4 months, and 7 days.
Oof. I was a whole lot shorter than you. I stayed in the military about 3 years, I guess.
We did live in we lived in New Hampshire. There people are talking about snow in the chat. That's that white stuff I remember seeing back in New Hampshire and Nebraska. We had a bunch of it in Nebraska. And Nebraska, it snowed this way. In New Hampshire, it snowed this way.
Well, I had my taste of snow was after I retired. I took and started delivering RVs all over the country out of Elkhart, Indiana. So I've been all over the country, and I got all the snow I wanted up there. That damn lake effect snow, that'd be just nice and pretty, and it
Yeah, New York State used to get hit with that all the time. Plattsburgh area when we lived in New Hampshire, we got the wet, heavy snow, but we didn't get the lake effect that New York State got.
Yeah, I don't miss that snow.
I don't either, and I brag a lot about the sun piling up on the front porch, but that's just my way of having fun.
Yeah. One time, the routine when you pick one of them new travel trailers up, when you backed up and hooked up to it, my wife was with me, and she'd take a license plate and walk around the back and put the license plate on the trailer while I was hooking all the lights and stuff up, and then I'd check the blinkers and the brake lights and all this kind of stuff. Well, it had been snowing pretty good that day, and I backed up to a big trailer, and she hopped out with a license plate and went around the back of the trailer, and I was hooking the wires and stuff up. All of a sudden, I heard her hollering. What in the world? I went to the back of the trailer, and they'd backed it over a bar ditch. And that damn snow was about 5.5, 6 foot deep.
Oh, no, she fell in?
She stepped off. Yeah, stepped off in that damn snow and went boob deep in it. I mean, and she was raising sand. And of course, I had to be a smart ass. And I told her, I said, yeah, you've been giving me a hard time. I said, I'll just leave you here. I got talked to pretty severely then, I think.
Oh, I'll bet. But, yeah. Yeah, you talk about snow and ice. I was working in Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska there. And it was my first winter there. Luckily I was in an office job, and I parked the van. I had a 87 Ford van that I drove back and forth to work. Pulled the van into the parking lot where I usually parked and got out. I'm in my office blue uniform, nice button-up shirt, tie, and everything like we had to wear. And I jumped out of the van, and it was snow on top of ice, and boy, oh boy, my feet went out from under me. I landed on my ass and my back, and I was a mess after that. Ended up going back home.
Mm. Well, you know, I pulled them. I got tired of staying in hotels and motels, and so I built a cab over camper and put on that 1 ton of mine and just pull bumper pulls. Well, that was a pretty cool deal. Not many people get a chance to do what we did, but they wanted you to drive 500 miles a day delivering it, but you didn't have to be back for 2 weeks. In other words,
Oh,
and so with that cab over camper on the back, we'd hook them up and go out there and drop a trailer, maybe in Oregon or Washington or California or Arizona, and then we'd take a week and a half getting back. So I've been in just damn near every national park and stuff. Got to see stuff that on a normal routine you wouldn't be able to see.
yeah.
So I guess I've been a nomad in one way or another for a long time.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. We kind of did the same thing, as we traveled around for the Air Force. We would get stationed. I know that up in New Hampshire, we got stationed there. It was only for 9 months, and we loved to camp, and we got the kids out camping. And one time, I don't know if I told you the story, but my dad told me one time. He said, I had a buddy I was in the Air Force with in the mid '50s, and he was from New Hampshire, and we were stationed in New Hampshire. He said he told me he was going to go up to Bethlehem, New Hampshire when he got out. I lost track of him. I don't know what happened to him. He said, if you ever get up that way, look in the phone book, see if you can find him. So we're camped in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, looking at the map. Well, gee whiz, Bethlehem is an hour up the road. So we jumped in the van, broke camp, jumped in the van, drove up there, and I pulled into this very old inn, the Thayer's Inn. I still remember what it looked like, the old wooden floors and wooden building. And looked in their phone book, and there was William Reardon on Reardon Road, So I wrote the name and phone number down, went back home, called my dad. It was his old buddy back from the '50s.
Wow.
So, being at that place at that time and being able to do that for my dad was pretty awesome. And again, I think, you just kind of sometimes you just kind of directed
Yeah.
that
I,
way.
Me and my wife were eating dinner in a Cracker Barrel up in Elkhart. And a guy walked up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, Ron? I said, yeah. I turned around and looked, and it was the engineer I worked with in a plant in Texas that we repacked the whole plant and set all the machinery in there and everything. And I ran across him. I ran across one of my nephews one time on a deal like that. But it's a big old country, but you'd be surprised. I had another friend of mine that was driving a truck. I just run into him and his wife. So you
Yeah.
don't ever know who and when you're going to see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Okay, Ron, Oki's putting supper on the table, so I'm going to jump out of here. Thanks for having me up,
Oh, I appreciate you coming up, Steve.
and hope you're feeling better and you get back to normal real soon.
Oh, and this crap it don't get over with quick.
Yeah, yeah, it's gone around here too. It's been through our family too. So
Well,
you
I
take
think I'm
care and see everybody in the chat. We'll talk to you later.
have a good one, Steve. That Steve's a good guy. And I can't believe we've been on here nearly an hour. I'm just going to jump on for a few minutes. I tell you what, all y'all folks up there where it's all that water rolling around, y'all sure be careful. I move and ladies looking at me like, don't you hit me. Yeah, I see you down there. Mm. Well, I guess I better go fix it. I think I'm gonna go fry me a pork chop. Something different. Mm. Well, I gotta disagree with you, Ringo. Tell you, I don't care if I ever see snow again. You know, that's something that's sort of weird about Arizona. Now, Steve lives in the hot part, and you don't have to drive too many miles, and you get up in what northeastern Arizona, and it's mountains and snow and everything in the world. A lot more scenery in Arizona than people think there is. But just make sure you carry it all to Steve and not to me. The way Tommy was talking, they were getting a lot of rain there. She said her bus last night was just rocking and rolling. No, I think I counted 5 flakes falling just north of me. Oh, 100 miles, they got quite a bit. I've been lucky so far on that. We haven't got any heavy ice or heavy snow either. That suits me fine. I'd make a good duck. I think it started getting cold. I'd be headed south. Well, we've been on here about an hour. I think I'm gonna get off this thing. I appreciate everybody coming in. Enjoyed the conversation and chat and with Steve too. And I'll probably see y'all tonight. Yeah, it sort of curls just right above me. Uh, and then further south, they got around Houston, they got a lot of snow down there, which is crazy for them. I think Louisiana was supposed to get hit last night with some heavy, heavy rains. But anyway, I'm gonna get off here. Y'all have a good time, good one, and I'll talk to y'all later.